Now the Libertarian Party of Colorado is saying they're not going to be putting their candidate on the ballot. We'll talk about why. My next two guests, that's right, two guests, is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, as well as Andy Buchkovich, who wrote the statement about why they will not be placing Chase on the ballot. I hope I got that name right. Good morning, Hannah, and good morning, Andy. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Good morning. Andy, I can't hear you. I've got no audio on you at this moment. So, Hannah, if you don't mind, if you could start as the chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, tell us a little bit about your decision not to place Chase on the ballot.
So Monday night we had our board meeting and my board came to me with a resolution. They decided that Chase Oliver and Mike Termott do not represent the ideals of the Colorado Libertarian Party. They don't match our vision. They don't represent us. And so my board brought this resolution forward and they passed it unanimously. As chairman of the board, I can vote, but I don't generally. So I just facilitated the passing of the resolution. I didn't necessarily vote. And so it is the will of the delegation of Colorado, as well as the board and the sustaining membership of the party, that we do not place Chase Oliver on the ballot here in Colorado.
Now, Andy, I was told that you are the person who actually brought this resolution and authored it. Do you want to tell us why?
So I didn't bring the resolution. I'm not on the board anymore. I did help write it, and I did write the statement afterwards. Just talking to people around Colorado, we all came together in the middle of COVID, the current iteration of the board as it exists. And so as we were all getting together and really forming the block that makes up the current Libertarian Party of Colorado, it was illegal a lot of the time. We were risking fines, we were risking jail. And in doing that, we were recognizing what the regime actually didn't want us to do. And in Colorado, that's the consistent feedback, is just that anytime there is an opportunity to actually stand against the regime, to realize what they actually want, this campaign has failed to do so. And so you can argue about the object level policies on any given issue. That's not even really the point. It's that beyond the object level policy, the state has a goal in all of these policies. And that is the part that we actually have to watch out for, that they've been so bad on.
Okay, so I want to get a little bit more into the why in just a moment, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of this decision. So, what would this mean in terms of filing with the Secretary of State? I mean, you'll still have other candidates running for office as libertarians, I understand, but how does this affect your down ballot candidates? What is the process that you have to go through? How is this different? Talk to us a little bit about the mechanics of this one, if you wouldn't mind, Hannah.
So it will not affect our ballot access. We have ballot access regardless. Our ballot access in Colorado is incredible. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, you're going to lose ballot access." That's not, in fact, true. It's my understanding with communicating with the Secretary of State here in Colorado that we could just have the option to have no one running under the Libertarian, and we're kind of exploring what our other options are. We're waiting for some more feedback from the Secretary of State about, can we introduce somebody else on this ballot for the presidential ticket? We're not super sure. This is brand new territory. So even the Secretary of State is kind of like, we don't know. But overall, our bylaws, it comes down to bylaws. The Secretary of State said it comes down to our state bylaws, and our state bylaws allow us to do this.
Okay. So, Andy, I guess I should ask, where's the beef? Or what's the beef in this scenario? It's not just about what the regime doesn't want you to do, but what is your specific, I guess, ideological problem that you have with placing someone like Chase Oliver on the ballot?
I mean, I think being able to credibly oppose the regime is a specific ideological problem. I think a routine psychological problem can be just as much of an issue as an ideological problem. On the trans kid stuff, we'll go from there for COVID. We can go down a laundry list of issues, but trans kid stuff, for example, The stance that there are decisions being made by parents that and doctors that we want the government to stay out of is pretty libertarian on its face. But it falls into the same category of issue as every other one of these, where it's not recognizing the reality of what's actually happening and the vast network of government and non-governmental influences that are causing this to happen. And if you can't accurately identify the causes in real time, how are you supposed to actually ever push back?
So
And that's
go ahead, Hannah, please.
and that's a big deal. I mean, when we think about Chase has said, actual transitioning after 18, great, fine, whatever, I don't care. But he's like, for all of these medications, right? But it's not necessarily you and your doctor. It's you, your doctor, the pharmaceutical company that owns the government, that influences policy. This is a symptom of cronyism, not capitalism. And so it's a narrative that feeds into what is not actually libertarian, what is not actually free market. The free market, a doctor could decide, I don't want to counsel you on any of this. But all these doctors, all of this mainstream everything is pushing people in this direction. And the rise of trans kids, it's in correlation to the rise of the propaganda. So this is not authentic. This is not happening naturally. This is a program that's being pushed through propaganda nationally and even globally. And we're seeing this huge rise, and it's this huge issue. And so it's a very naive position to be like, oh, well, it's just between parents and doctors. That's not at all who it's between.
Fascinating. All right, so for our listeners who might just be tuning in, it looks like the numbers are on the rise right now. So I'd like to reset very briefly for those who might just be tuning in live, who are watching the Wake Up America show perhaps for the first time. And I'm speaking to Hannah Goodman. She is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and Andy Buchkovich. He is the author of a resolution or a statement that was placed in the public sphere, stating that the Libertarian Party of Colorado will refuse to place their candidates, Chase Oliver and their VP candidate, Mike Termott, on the ballot in contention for president of the United States. It's huge news, and it's a discussion that we're having right now about the specific reasons why they've decided to make this decision. So it appears as if the question of Chase Oliver and his position on transitioning children using chemical castration, which he believes is not the proper and necessary role of government. Is this the primary ideological issue that you have with Chase Oliver, specifically that he does not believe that the government should prevent doctors and parents from castrating their children chemically? Is that the number one issue?
No, I would say it's a symptom of the number one issue. If Chase were to say everything he's currently saying, but then on top of that, just recognize the web of influence that goes into it, it would be tough to agree, but at least we could trust him to the next time the state sets its sights on something, identify that and oppose it. It is because he can't either is unwilling or unable to recognize the giant web of influence that, like Hannah's saying, is both private and in the government that goes into these decisions. That's what we can't have, or else we're gonna get into another BLM type moment as the election goes on this year, and we're gonna have candidates that fail to realize which side the regime is actually on when they begin to talk about things like this.
Anna, did you want to add to that?
It's incredibly important because the president or whatever of ticket, it becomes the face of the party for a very long time. So, as the face of the party, you need to be incredibly solid on opposing government, right? And not in a soft milk toast way. We have to be very principled. We are the only party of principle, right? So our candidate, our face needs to stand up on principle and address these issues. Yeah, there's ways to thread the needle. Of course, this is politics, right? He could literally get his ideas across while threading the libertarian needle and acknowledging the radical stance that he needs to take against all of these things because the regime is on the side of the things he's supporting. That's and he's very vocal about those things while not maintaining a very libertarian position.
Now there was another ideological question that was posed. I think Andy mentioned it very briefly, but related to Chase Oliver's position in regards to COVID-19. Could you please air those grievances?
Yeah, so like I said, in Colorado, we are very much formed in COVID here. All of us started organizing to make Colorado up as it exists at the height of lockdowns and mandates in this state. I have a great picture of one of the first times of us together at a normal unmasked Thanksgiving in 2020. And at that, we're risking jail to come together like normal human beings. He's tweeting about having a masked and distanced Thanksgiving. Again, object level, he's not saying the government should do anything. He's saying to do it privately. He is feeding into exactly what the regime wanted at that moment in a way that is profoundly anti-human. And if that's where the instincts keep repeatedly being, we can't have it.
So, Hannah, it sounds to me as if it's not as if the position that Chase Oliver is necessarily taking is unlibertarian, because he's certainly free to choose to go to a masked Thanksgiving and do whatever he pleases with his own time, and the rest of us are free to go to unmasked Thanksgivings and to defy the regime. Um, so his positions aren't necessarily unlibertarian, but they don't fall in line with culturally where you and Andy and many of the LP of Colorado are at. Is that a fair assessment or not?
Yes, that's a deeply fair assessment. And I would say that it goes to principles. When push comes to shove, where are you gonna fall? I know exactly where I'm going to fall. I started my career as an anti vaccine activist. None of my children are vaccinated. But throughout the years, you've seen Chase Oliver posting things about how stupid people like me are. So you're going to represent me, though, as the face of my entire party and underpin all of the work that I've dedicated years to. Are you serious? Like, it's more, I think, than cultural. It is the foundation of libertarianism to stand on principle. Sure, he can choose these things, but that's exactly what they wanted us to choose and do. So it's not really very like, I guess, punk rock, if you want to think of it that way, right? A lot of people think about libertarians as being anti system, anti government, standing up, fighting against oppression and government tyranny. But when you comply, that's not a, well, you guys are free to rebel, but I'm going to comply. Okay, that doesn't seem very principled.
But I mean, you do acknowledge that people should have the right to be able to be vaccinated and to vaccinate their own children and advocate for vaccines if that's their own belief, even if they don't want to force that on anyone else, correct?
Yeah, but
Yes,
just
but I
like Lou
don't.
Rockwell, oh, so just
Go
like
ahead.
Lou Rockwell said, if what you're advocating for does nothing to serve the regime, does nothing but to serve the regime, you should be quiet about it.
Yes.
That sounds a little authoritarian, at least from. I mean, that sounds like the kind of regime, the thing someone who is a part of the regime might say. I mean, we're supposed to be able to have free speech and a free debate of ideas, and the question of vaccines is one that we should be questioning and debating. We should hear from both sides, and I think everybody knows now that the COVID vaccine itself was largely a massive failure. But some people have qualms about not giving their child a pertussis vaccine or a polio vaccine, for example. And we should be able to have a discussion about that. We shouldn't have to shut up about that, should we, Hannah?
No, definitely not. I believe in a free marketplace of ideas. I believe in a free market everywhere. And I absolutely love this issue and being able to discuss the ideology of it. However, when you're the face of an entire party, it's not like he's just, running for a House district or something like that, or even just a basic member. He is now the face of the entire party, of all of my work, right? And he's calling people like me stupid on Twitter. Okay, really? Like, I'm not calling him stupid for his belief. I just don't know that it's exactly principled. And I'm attacking his ideas, not the man himself. And so that's really where the line is. You're now the face of the party. This is now what everybody's going to see as being what the Libertarian Party stands for. And it's actually not what the Libertarian Party stands for in its entirety.
How how um how is the reaction been to your decision not to place your presidential candidate on the ballot? Has it been a mostly unified response from Colorado? Has there been pushback from other states? Talk to us a little bit about the reaction to this decision.
So I was actually really surprised. It seems like we're having more support than not. There are people in my party in Colorado that disagree with us. Karen Ann Harlow disagrees with this decision. She does not support it. Totally fine. And she's a sustaining member of the party. Obviously, she's very active, one of our faces there. But overall, we've been able to fundraise. I've raised almost $500 in 48 hours on this issue. We have people writing us, supporting us into my email, into their comments all over social media, all of these things. I've had very minimal dissension as feedback. And so I'm surprised by that.
Just want to clarify that in terms of state libertarian parties, $500 is fairly significant.
Yes, it's not, I mean, but like raise $500 in 48 hours is just basic, non-known people, really.
Now, I spoke to the chair of the Libertarian National Committee yesterday, Angela McCardle, and she's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, it appears, because on one hand, she has a fiduciary responsibility to the party. She has a legal responsibility to ensure that you follow through on placing the chosen nominee on the ballot. On the other hand, she seems to align with you somewhat ideologically. I can't say for certain she's being very sly, and that's probably wise when it comes to her views of Chase Oliver and Mike Termott. But I think you could probably sympathize with the position that she's in. Do you expect her to maybe get a little heavy-handed, maybe even throw a lawsuit around or two?
I'm expecting lawsuits to start rolling in. So if people think that I'm not expecting the worst, I am. I'm definitely preparing for it. I have already have legal counsel on retainer, so I'm prepared. We are definitely, this is the action my board wants me to take. So I'm going to see what I can do to make sure that we see it to its natural ends. We do have till September 6th to place someone on our ballot. So that's a lot of time. That's a lot of wiggle room. Maybe Chase Oliver's campaign decides they want to do 180 and and work on it and hear our complaints and
Oh,
realize
so you're open to changing your mind.
yeah, I'm always open to changing I don't know about my board, but me, I'm always open to
Our
change.
whole electoral strategy here is about doing what makes the most sense with the leverage that we have.
Yes. Yeah. And so if that ends up being the case, that's a win, right? If he wants to double down and we really want to fight this out, I guess that's what we'll do. I'm here to facilitate the will of the board and the members of Colorado. That is my job.
Okay, so what would it take in your mind? Like, what kind of a scenario could you imagine that Chase Oliver and Mike Termott, what could they say or do in your mind to probably change your minds and maybe even the minds of the people on the board that would reverse this decision and you would place him on the ballot? And how much time do you have to do something like that?
So, like Hannah said, we have until September. At minimum, we need to see the opportunities that you have to show that you understand what the regime is up to that are happening right now to be handled a little bit better. So the vice presidential candidate on that ticket, in the face of historically unprecedented lawfare that's like really no better than Soviet third world type stuff that's happening to our former president. I don't like the guy. I think he should be in jail, but not for insane laws that nobody has ever been charged this way for before. So in the face of that, that vice presidential candidate is making feeble jokes about how, oh, does this mean you won't be able to vote for the Oliver Termott ticket? Like, if they have their way, if the forces that are causing this to happen have their way, nobody will be voting for any tickets before too long. And we're making jokes. So just at a minimum, in real time, these things need to start being handled a little bit better.
Hannah, do you imagine that many of your members may vote for Donald Trump this year because of those lawsuits against him and the fear of not having another election?
I really can't say. I can't speculate on how people are voting. I haven't necessarily got my elbows into that mess, as it were. I I mean, I'm gonna say
Andy,
probably.
let me toss it over to you. Andy, do you think so?
Yeah, everybody I talk to in Colorado is, I think, appropriately concerned about what's happening at the federal, uh, in the Justice Department.
And Does that equal a vote for Trump?
Um, I think that it is on us to present libertarians in Colorado with a better way to fight the state and to fight that lawfare than Donald Trump. We have a couple months to figure that out.
Hannah, before I rudely interrupted you, you were going to say something about or respond to that, the question of libertarians voting for Trump?
Yes. So from what I'm hearing, a lot of people that I know specifically are. I don't know all of my, I haven't, really asked my members. I don't know that it's appropriate that I ask my members who you're voting for president. And as my grandma would say, we should all probably just keep that to ourselves.
I don't mean to be mealy mouthed about that. Libertarians in Colorado, a lot of them will vote for Trump if we don't give them a better option.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry.
Non-politician answers. We love it. Hannah, Andy, is there anything else about this situation or perhaps just anything in general that you think the 1,500 people who are watching us live right now need to know or hear from you?
If you support what we're doing, if you support a real decentralized strategy within the Libertarian Party, if you support state parties holding out for concessions to actually fight for liberty, go to lpcolorado.org/donate and help us out.
There you go. Hannah, anything else?
Yes, if you are in Colorado, you want to get active, join the party. You'll go to lpcolorado.org/join. If you are interested in what Colorado is doing, because we've been making waves across the nation with a lot of my political strategy, go ahead and Google the LP Colorado and see what we're doing here in Colorado to advance liberty.
There you go. The Libertarian Party of Colorado at this point not putting their own presidential candidate on the ballot. Things could change, but we'll keep an eye on what's going on out there. Hannah, keep us abreast of the news. Andy, thank you very much for coming on here today and explaining your views so thoroughly. Thanks so much for making it happen, and we appreciate you all very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you very much. Let's get